Hi, everybody. This is Mr. Shalk telling you what you will be doing today at home. So, there is a new folder called Narrative Writing Resources. Within that folder, there is today's lesson for plotting tools. And you will click on either this if you have missed day or maybe Miss Verber, but for me, you'll be clicking on this because my assignment is actually online and you'll be filling it out just as if you were in class. So you'd be clicking on that and it would end up pulling you up to this. It is important that we understand all parts of plot in order to prepare us to write our own stories. We want to be sure to fully develop our own stories by including all the necessary plot elements. So today, you're going to identify and understand plot elements. You're going to take thoughtful notes on the anchor text to promote understanding and learn terms and provide evidence for plot elements. In class today, we are actually watching The Lion King, and we'll be watching it tomorrow. And we're going to provide examples of each of these terms through the movie The Lion King. If you have access to The Lion King at home and you want to do the same thing, that is awesome. If not, I want you to be providing examples from movies or stories that you have read so I actually know you understand the terms. But what I'm going to do with you today is I'm actually going to give you the definitions to each of these terms, and you're going to fill it out, and I'm just going to explain it a little more thoroughly than you would if you just got the definition. So, for example, I'm going to explain exposition. You're going to have the definition. Then I just want you to pause my video so you can type it out. So, exposition. Exposition sets up the situation, introduces setting, and introduces the characters. So I'll use The Lion King for an example for this. In The Lion King, everyone is at Pride Rock. All the animals are in line, and Rafiki holds up Simba, symbolizing that Simba is the next animal in line to be king. So it sets up the situation. We know Simba was just born. We know he's next in line. We know the setting of the story because we can see that it's at Pride Rock, and we know the main character, who's Simba. They're literally holding him up, letting us know the story will be about him. So I want you to think about how stories do this. Usually in books, it's probably the first chapter of a book or maybe the first few pages. In a movie, it might be the first maybe 4 to 5 minutes. Then we have mood and tone. So pause if you need to fill that out. Then we have mood and tone. Mood is how the reader actually feels while reading, and tone is how the author wants the reader to feel. Sometimes these things can be the same exact thing, and sometimes the author wants something and the mood is different for the people that are actually experiencing the content that they created. So take a minute, pause, and fill out those definitions as well. Next, we have conflict. It is the main problem of the story. It's introduced near the beginning. The different types are character versus character self, character versus nature, and character versus society. Now, character versus character would be, for example, me against someone else, another living person. We're going at it. Think of Luke versus Darth Vader. Now, character versus self would be an internal struggle. It would be me trying to overcome something that's going on in my own head or in my own feelings, how I'm feeling about something. So if I'm using Star Wars again, for example, it would be Luke overcoming his own fear of joining forces with the dark side. I guess I'm going real geeky with my examples today. Character versus nature. This would be, for example, say the character is stranded out in a jungle and he has to survive on his own. He's literally battling against nature to survive. That is an external conflict. Character versus society. I want you to think of characters that are going up against an establishment, an organization, something larger than one person. Then we have rising action. Rising action is when the conflict of the story is revealed, events that create tension, that lead to the climax. So I'm going to use a very popular movie, Avengers, for this example. The conflict of the story is usually revealed. So, for example, this would be when Loki is trying to steal, I haven't seen this movie in a while, but the staff, to have power to destroy the planet. So we know that part of the conflict will be Loki trying to do something that is evil. And now we need events that create tension in the story. So I would say that creates tension is when Thor gets to the planet and Iron Man and Thor battle it out for the first time because they aren't familiar with who each other are. And then another turning point would be when they're all in the ship for the first time and they're all kind of arguing, trying to figure out if they can actually be a team. Another event that creates tension is when the ship is attacked and they have to like figure that out. Then eventually one of the agents is actually murdered. So they all have to come together to become the Avengers, which leads to the climax. And the climax was the high point of the story, the turning point of the story, where the main character decides how to solve the big problem. And this is usually near the end. And this would be, for instance, when Iron Man attempts to sacrifice himself to save the whole world, when he shoots up to the sky and he doesn't know if he's actually going to survive. And I would say that would be the climax. The main character is trying to solve a big problem. So take a minute and pause and write those definitions down. Then we have events that follow the climax, which is complications begin to resolve, outcome is clear, predictable, and then we have the resolution, which is the final outcome is achieved, loose ends are tied up. So I want you to think about, again, if I use Avengers for example, the following action would be, when the town is saved. New York City's saved, but there's still wreckage and there's still a lot of damage. But then the resolution is that they actually create the Avengers building. They know they're finally going to become a team, and we have a satisfying ending, and we kind of know where it might lead next. In a lot of stories, these could be happy endings, these could be sad endings, but you know that the story is complete. You don't think there's going to be another chapter. You don't think there's going to be a part 2. You know that it's finally wrapped up everything it needs to say. So pause and complete that. So then we're going to move on to characters. The main character, also called the protagonist, fully developed. The hero of the story is about this person. So for example, SpongeBob SquarePants. SpongeBob would be the main character, the protagonist of that cartoon. Minor characters, also called flat. A few details about them. Characters are important to keep the story flowing. I would say, for example, Mr. Krabs, Pearl would be minor characters. Antagonists, this can be the main or minor character. This character is usually the source of conflict. If I'm thinking about who is usually a source of conflict in SpongeBob, I would say Plankton, because he's always trying to steal the Krusty Krab formula, and hopefully he never does. And if we move on to theme, this is something we've talked about in class a lot already. So the life lesson the author wants the reader to obtain from the story. So I want you to think of books you've read or movies you've seen. What is that universal lesson they're trying to teach you? Something that you can take out of the story and actually apply to your own life or your own experiences. So those are all the definitions you have to fill out. So now I want you, if you have The Lion King, I want you just to watch The Lion King and fill out the examples that you would provide with the definitions, just like you were in class. If you don't have access, or if you don't want to watch The Lion King, okay, then I want you to provide examples of each of these. And it can be different stories, the same movie, but kind of like how I just did for you guys, think of stories that you enjoy and try to connect these terms to that story. Because again, you're going to see exposition, conflict, mood, tone, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution in every single story that you experience. So think about it. This assignment is worth 10 points. So there you go. Good luck. Enjoy.